Okay, I guess we're back here.
Here we are again.
Okay, once again, I'm Mark from TheGeekChurch, and this is Sanan Kolva. And we're talking about fantasy movies this time. Last time we talked about a lot of the great book series we grew up with and really cool stuff. Today we're going to talk about the ultimate fantasy movies. And I want to bring up a few fantasy movies. I think we're going to do what we did before, trade off.
All right.
Let's try and keep our movies in the 80s.
Sure.
We'll start with that and we'll work our way to 90s. Actually, I can't really think of any fantasy movies from the 90s. Maybe you know a lot. You kind of grew up during that time. Okay, so let's start. Labyrinth. You like that one?
Oh yeah, Labyrinth is fun.
Okay, yes. Good musical.
Definitely seen that one more than once.
Oh yeah, very good. And let's see. A lot of good Muppets.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, a lot of these fantasy movies, they usually have a present day world aspect to them. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, there's like kind of like, what was it, the portal thing you called?
Yeah, portal fantasy.
So Labyrinth is definitely one of those.
Yeah.
There's a portal
you have
somewhere.
Somebody from the regular world who gets pulled into the fantasy world that is distinct from our own, but similar enough that it's...
Okay. Then give full points for Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
I get the feeling that this film didn't do as good as they wanted it to. If we need to talk about, I mean, because I think Lucas produced it. Jim Henson, I think, was involved with it. He may have directed it. I don't know. I'm starting to get a little hazy on this film. It's been a while since I've actually seen it.
Yeah.
So, eh. But I definitely think it was like... I think at the time in the 80s and maybe even the 70s, there wasn't a lot of demand for fantasy movies, and they probably were very hard to film. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing Labyrinth probably cost a pretty penny to do, because all the Muppetry and some of the effects. Like, for example, the end with the Asherian kind of landscape. That thing looked great.
That was awesome. But
there's some other things. And just the simple effect, the helping hands. Remember those? We're the helping hands. It's just like, it was awesome.
Yes.
That's all you needed. It was just like, yeah. You didn't need any complicated puppets. Hands, maybe.
Yet at the same time, that also made that feel kind of creepy.
It was very creepy, I have to admit. But then Labyrinth is pretty creepy. It's about a goblin king who wants a teenage girl, for crying out loud. This is creepy to the max.
And steals her baby brother to get her.
Her baby brother to do it, for crying out loud. What else do you want? Ew. So, and of course, yeah. Okay, all right. I think it's your turn, son.
Okay. Legend.
I've never seen this film.
Really?
I think maybe I saw part of it. I think I was over at a friend's house and part of it was showing. This is Tom Cruise.
It's an incredibly young Tom Cruise.
Yeah, and he's probably still...
And it's a unicorn movie, so, you know...
There's a unicorn in it.
young girls of the 80s. Okay, you have a unicorn.
I gotta see me this movie now. And Tim Curry is in it. He's like the ultimate he's like this huge devil kind of guy or something. Yeah, I have no idea what this film is. Isn't there like a fairy in it too or something?
There's fairies in it. I mean, it's plot-wise, it's pretty basic.
Is this like one of your favorite fantasy films? Because this is the first film you're bringing up.
No, this is not my favorite fantasy.
And this is a Ridley Scott movie too. So how is this film with Tom Cruise and Ridley Scott gone so under the rug? How is it possible that we are was it really that bad?
It wasn't terrible. Okay. It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't terrible. It was just kind of honestly fairly generic fantasy unicorn movie.
I sort of get the feeling like that was all Hollywood was willing to bank on back then.
Probably.
As far as fantasy was concerned, because they didn't really know much about this genre, and they knew if they really wanted to do it right, they probably would just animate it or something, because that's why we got very much animated Lord of the Rings movies before that. So, all right. So, okay, I know a guy who tells me he bought a Blu-ray copy of Legend. I'm gonna have to borrow it from him. Man, this is gonna be. I gotta do more homework. Okay, so let's talk about one I know you like, Willow.
Yes.
Okay, you like Willow.
I like Willow. Willow was probably one of my favorite fantasy movies.
It's fine if you like Willow. You know, here's the thing about it. When it came out, let's see. When it came out, it was getting bad ratings. It just got really poor ratings. I didn't want to see it, and I talked to someone who saw it, and it says like, it's just like Star Wars. And part of me went like, well, now I want to see it, but at the same time, I don't want to see something that's exactly like Star Wars. And I saw it, and I have to admit, were you to draw out the characters from Willow with the characters from Star Wars, there's a fine line that you can do to draw those in. That's, I guess, I feel like George Lucas was essentially going, well, I conquered space, I'm going to conquer fantasy. I'm going to do a Lord of the Rings my way. And it feels like that. But it doesn't feel bad. I felt like they came across well.
I enjoy the characters. Yeah. I like there is to me a fun like witty dialogue. There are the comic relief characters who are used sparingly enough that they don't just become obnoxious.
The brownies.
Like the brownies could have become horribly obnoxious. But I feel like they did them in kind of the right amount.
It was
and they still contributed to the story. They weren't just there for the lulz.
You know, at the end, remember? Okay. Here's the thing. I tried watching this film a few years ago recently, and I hadn't seen it for like over a decade. The scene that I just couldn't stop cracking up was when this big sorceress turns them all into pigs, and it's like, you a pig, and it was like this reverse Oprah moment. It's like, you're a pig, everyone is a pig. Just like, and I was going like, and I just was going like, I can't believe this is happening. And I felt like, at the time when I first watched it, I was actually pretty impressed because I thought, wow, this is just like the Odyssey. With Cersei turning everybody into pigs, and I kind of thought like, well, you're stealing here, but at least you're stealing from the classics.
Yeah.
Which, if you looked at Willow, I mean, it is ambitious. There's a scene with a giant two-headed dragon that breathes fire. It's actually kind of like, I didn't expect this to happen in this film. And I think there's a scene where...
And there's actually some very, very, honestly, pivotal... in the progress of how special effects worked. Yeah. They had to do some really creative stuff in there for the scene where we're actually doing the animal transformations back into the sorceress.
That. Yeah, that was
because we
like
do this whole sequence of between animals into finally back into her human form. Yeah. And that was actually very revolutionary.
You didn't, they didn't have morphing back then.
Yeah, and even if you look at it today, I feel like a number of the special effects in Willow don't hold up well. Yeah. But I feel like that one does actually hold up really well.
Okay. All right.
That's my opinion. I could be wrong.
No, I actually think that, I think you might be right on that, because how do you think they did that effect? Do you think they used computer or claymation, maybe?
I've heard... I watched something about it, but it's been so long that I don't remember.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But I don't think it was computer animated.
Yeah, they probably didn't have that technology back then.
Yeah, I don't think
they would have looked better.
Think the computers
could. The film would have looked good, a lot better with the little computers, guys. But so.
And a few years ago, I was at a convention where Warwick Davis was at.
Yeah, I saw that picture of you.
And so he actually did a panel where he was talking about some of the stuff from Willow. Oh. And did you know he was, I believe, 17?
I know.
He was way younger than I thought.
I saw when you posted that, and I was going like all the time, because when I saw Willow, I was a teenager, and he had kids in the film, and I just assumed, oh, he must be my mom's age because he's got kids. And then it's going like, he was actually younger than me. Yeah. And I went like, really? And I just went, so he was like, how old was he when he was playing this father of two?
I say, I think it was 17. He was in his teens.
I bought it though. Nothing about this. I went like, there's nothing in, Warwick Davis's performances work. He is so good in that, I can see why they named the film after him. Because they could have called it like, other generic fantasy movie, Legend. Oh wait, that's taken. So, but yeah. Oh, hey, we should talk about this now. Did you watch the Willow show?
No.
You didn't watch the Willow show?
I wanted to. I didn't. I don't have the streaming program, and they no longer have it on the Disney Plus right now. They took it off.
What?
Yes.
Why would they just take? I actually have heard this, and I'm going like, it's there. Just leave it.
Exactly.
I'm going
I would have actually done a whole the subscription to it so that I could watch it and see how it was, because I actually heard decent things about it.
Okay.
And I wanted to watch it, and then I found out that no, they pulled it off.
Definitely tried to do some things that I thought were interesting. This isn't really going to spoil it much. On the final episode, during the credits, they play Dire Straits' Money for Nothing.
Okay.
And I kind of went like, what are you going for here? Because this wasn't like one of those things like in, I don't know, what's the movie, like Guardians of the Galaxy where they play music
Yeah.
and it doesn't match the scene, but yet it kind of does. This one I went like, you're mentioning MTV in an era where MTV surely does not exist yet. And I kind of went like, this isn't working. And I went like, but at the same time, I was sort of laughing and I was kind of going like, if you didn't mention MTV in the song, this might work. But you do mention MTV in the song, and it should have been like, oh, I guess we're going to have to use something else then. Nope, we're going to use Dire Straits' Money for Nothing. And they did it. And I just went like, why did you, what? No. But, okay, so, and I know, and was that the reason why they took it off? Because it was so bad? Because I actually think that the ending credits also had this thing where they put like a book on the wall, like Willow Volume 1 with Willow Volume 2. So I got the feeling they plan more seasons.
Yeah,
after
I've heard
this.
that there were supposed to be more seasons.
So, which is a real shame because it's like, you know, Warwick Davis is just, honestly, he's a really underrated actor, isn't he? He really should have, I mean, he sold me on Willow.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of things.
Yeah, but, yeah. I mean,
Starting as an Ewok.
yeah, he was Wicket. And he must have been like, what, 6 years old or something?
Yeah.
He was so young.
You talked about that, don't you?
Oh, man. Anyway, so Willow, we've talked about. Whose turn is it?
Well, you brought up Willow.
Okay, so what are you going to bring up?
Ladyhawke.
Ah, yes, this film. I did not like this film when I saw it. I did see it in the theater. I think I expected a bit more magical elements to it, or perhaps maybe more Matthew Broderick in it. And I didn't really get either. There are many people that really love this film. I think it's trying to do more things than it can do on its budget. And after all, I think Rutger Hauer's transformation to a wolf was done with a simple, simple edit like that. And it was that simple. I don't remember how they... didn't Michelle Pfeiffer turn into a hawk? Did they have some sort of long out transformation scene for that? I don't remember.
Like just in not like a long drawn out, but they did have. There was like one scene where it was actually like they actually did the transformation.
So it was pretty much instantaneous when they became like. There is that one scene where I think they transform together and they both kind of have a chance
just
to
like
look at each other.
This almost moment, yeah.
And it's and it is sad. I have to admit, it's been so long since I've seen this film that I thought it was going to be more D&D type fantasy elements, but it turned out to be a pretty grounded story, I thought, well, I mean, there is magic going on, clearly, but it's like, dude, I mean, if you're gonna go magic, go all out, okay? Have the guy, like, become, like, you know, the knight comes up and have the bishop, like, fine, I'll use all my sorcerer's powers on you. I mean, that's how I would have ended this film, and just, like, just bolts of lightning and stuff like that. Nope, we're out of budget, so he's just gonna get stabbed, which is kind of how it ends. But it's appropriate how it ends. I think there's like an eclipse.
Yeah.
Or something that was the only way they could break the spells if we see them together. And I don't know how the good guys know that, but they do. And Matthew Broderick isn't even...
The old drunk priest.
Okay, so you must have liked this film, right?
I do enjoy that film.
Okay.
I do enjoy it.
So you watch that from time to time? Like, I think I'm going to watch Ladyhawke today?
It's kind of like one of those films where, like, if I'm flipping through the channels and I come across it, I'll stop and watch it.
Okay, that's fine. I think that's interesting. Okay, that's good. Okay, let's talk about, let's see, Return to Oz. I feel like we should discuss this film. You read all the Oz books. Did you ever see this film?
I never saw the movie.
Okay. It's freaky.
That's what I've heard.
And here's the thing. You could... Actually, I'm trying to think, but... early 80s PG is not our PG today. Because they didn't have the PG-13 rating back then.
So it was PG or it was R?
So PG, so they basically kind of said like, well, and I kind of get the feeling, now there was I think this film came out in 85 and they had the PG-13 rating by then, but by that time I think they had pretty much done this film. And it is a lot more like, I think, what the books are more like. And there is a lot of really unique effects. There is a claymation rock that is talking. That is pretty awesome. Had I seen this film when I was 8, I probably would have got nightmares. As it were, I was just flipping through stations one time and it was on like the Disney Sunday movie, because at the time this was owned by Disney. And I think, I don't know, I think Disney actually produced an Oz movie rather recently that I don't know how they have their Oz. I would think that would be Warner Brothers owned, but yeah. It has a scene where the rock comes alive and all these hands come out of the wall, and it's done in stop motion, so it looks ultra freaky. And then there's the Wheelers. These guys that are on these things. These costumes must have been terribly uncomfortable. They're in positions like on their, like this, and they got wheels on their hands and feet, and they're just kind of whirling along there. And it's just, it's a very scary thing. And yeah, it's just like, it's freaky, and this movie flopped hard. I think Disney really thought it was going to be big, but it just didn't. Because like I said, people always compare Oz to that original. And since this wasn't a musical or anything like that, they decided to go different, and it bit them in the butt. Okay, that's enough of me talking about Return to Oz.
All right.
Okay, what else you got?
So I'll actually ask you whether you consider this one to be fantasy or not, and that is The Princess Bride.
You know what? I have it down here on my list of stuff from the 80s, and Princess Bride does show up, and yes, I consider that a fantasy book. The fact that it deals with sort of flipped storytelling and uses the framing device in the modern world actually gives the film a bit more charm. I actually think you probably could have done this film without those scenes. But the fact that they're there, I think, kind of adds to it, because I think it sort of kind of gives another meta layer into the storytelling. And the fact is, the story isn't really... I mean, I think one of the reasons why The Princess Bride works is the characters are very solid, and the comedy is very good. And but the budget feels like nobody believed this. I sort of felt like, we're going to give you the minimum of what you want, Mr. Reiner, and you did this.
Well, if you actually want to get into, if you ever want to know basically the history of The Princess Bride, read, Carrie Ells has a book that is called As You Wish. It's a very fun book, but it basically is talking about the production of The Princess Bride.
And, did anyone believe in it? Because it just... I've seen a lot of films
the director believed in it, and he had like the push to make the studios go along with it, but like the script for The Princess Bride had existed for quite some time. Like there had been multiple attempts to make this movie before.
Oh, well that's actually pretty common. So.
And like it had gotten to the point where basically everybody had given up on it until Rob Reiner basically championed it through and made it happen.
Did you ever read the book that this was taken from?
I have.
Okay, because I'm assuming that the book is a bit more serious. Is it?
The book is it's got the same story, but the book, I enjoy the movie more than the book.
Okay, that's fine. I'll bet if I probably read the book, I'd probably go, So, actually, for me, it's like whenever I read the book first, I enjoy it more, and then I see the movie and I go, oh, that's so awful. Then I watch, or if I see the movie, then I read the book, it's kind of like, well, I kind of liked how they did the movie better. Maybe it's because I saw it first. I don't know. But, yeah.
To get slightly off topic on that, if with books to movies, movies to books, often if it's gonna be something, I would rather probably watch the movie first than read the book, because then the book fills in all the things that the movie doesn't cover.
That's true.
Whereas if I've read the book first and I'm watching the movie, it's like, well, they skipped this and they changed that and they completely biffed that one, and
so yeah, we should count it. I mean, I remember when this film came out in the theater, nobody saw it. But then one day I was like, I think I was watching a movie and I was about ready to put on the VCR tape, and I saw just clips of the sword fighting from this movie, and I went like, wow, what's this film? And then I looked in the paper, The Princess Bride, and it's like, oh, that's what this film is. And it's like, I was watching it, I was going like, this is pretty good. What the heck is going on here? Then a friend of mine just said, you gotta watch this film, The Princess Bride. And then I watched it, it's like, yeah, this film is very good.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck? So, any sequel on that one? Are we gonna get...
I hope not.
No, I hope not. It's kind of nice that that stands alone. I'm kind of glad that there are certain things that they didn't try again.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I mean, like Andre the Giant is dead, has passed away, so you can't, and you can't really get another actor to play that role.
No, I can't.
Even if you could find another actor large enough, literally large enough to play that role.
We're just going to call Dwayne Johnson, see if he can do it. Because we call him for everything now. Okay, one more film.
I don't want to try to see him play Fezzik.
Okay, one more film from the 80s I want to talk about, then we'll try and shift here.
Sure.
Let's see, where was this film? NeverEnding Story. Did you ever see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I enjoyed the NeverEnding Story. I don't know whether I would still enjoy it. It's been a long time since I've watched it.
I don't think I ever saw it until like a few years ago. And when I watched it, I kind of thought, when it came out in theaters, it was panned. It's one of those films that like everybody doesn't like when it comes out. And then I think what happens is people rent it so much that everybody grows up with it, and then they sort of realize it, then they got their nostalgia glasses on.
Yeah.
So, its meta-narrative is very interesting. How are we supposed to interpret the ending of that? Is that physically, realistically happening, or is that just in the character's mind? And he's riding
Like a luck dragon?
Yeah, and then scaring the kids so they jump literally in a dumpster to hide from it.
I mean, watching it, I interpreted it as this is actually the fantasy world crossing over into the real world for that moment.
I guess so, and I kind of like that, but whatever happens to Bastion besides those awful sequels.
Have you ever read the book?
No, what's the book like?
Well, the book is basically the NeverEnding Story, and NeverEnding Story 2 is the book.
Are you kidding me?
No, seriously, if you took the NeverEnding Story, you only have half the book. You only have the first half of the book.
That's just crazy talk. So.
And, you know, obviously the second movie was, you know, didn't exactly follow the book.
Of course it did, yeah.
But It's an interesting book to read. It's been a long time since I read it, but it is an interesting book.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, one more film I think I should bring up. Dark Crystal. Did you see this movie?
I've at least seen it in bits and pieces. I'm not. I'm sure that at some time I have actually seen it from beginning to end, but it's been a very long time.
I could probably put it under the same umbrella as Labyrinth because Henson was so heavily involved.
Yeah.
It is an ambitious work to make a film that's all puppets. It did not pay off for him. And I think what he was trying to do was trying to make puppets grow up. But he was so good at the Muppets. I mean, come on. He was so good at it, and they were so good. And I think he didn't want to stay there.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him. I kind of think Henson was one of those guys that, okay, I've done this to death. I don't want to do this, and he died very young.
Yeah.
I remember the day he died, and I thought, really? I just thought, like, he seemed like he was, I mean, I knew he was old, but he wasn't that old. And so, and I got the feeling like he wanted to do so much that he never got a chance to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't really remember this film as well. So, okay, now we got to go to 90s fantasy films, and I am blanking out. I cannot think of anything that was done in the fantasy 90s.
90s.
Jeez. Can you guys help us out here? Because we can't think of any 90s fantasy films. I'm trying to think of anything that would have been that. Well, there were some NeverEnding Story sequels.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think things that weren't sequels.
Why is it we can't think of any? Just like, how did Lord of the Rings get greenlit? Maybe because we were sick of not having fantasy films?
When did the first one come out? Was that the very late 90s?
Oh, Lord,
Yeah.
no, they actually released like 2001, 2002, 2003.
Okay,
They
so
kind of just did them,
just barely on.
yeah.
Okay.
So they got out of there. I'm sure they were filming them during that
Oh,
time.
yeah.
But shoot, I just kind of. Is it weird that we can't think of anything? Okay.
I'm sure that there are some that are
You
not
know what?
animated.
Maybe I should just do a little quick thing. Maybe we can go here. Fantasy book series. And if you wanted to, we could contact. I'm thinking live action.
Yeah.
Basically anything here isn't really like. I have Hook. We could call that.
No, Dragonheart.
Okay, Dragonheart's probably your best example of this. And Dragonheart is an awesome movie if you haven't seen it. It's a stereotypical movie because someone wants to make the definitive dragon movie and they just haven't made it yet. And everybody thinks Game of Thrones is that, but it's not. I don't even know what the most definitive dragon movie is. I mean, like, if you were to show it to me, would I be like, okay, that's all dragons now? Yeah, I don't know. But, did you like Dragonheart? Did you see
I
it?
did enjoy it, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I wouldn't have said that it was anything, earth-shattering.
Mhm.
But it was a fun movie.
Oh, yeah. If I had seen it in the theater, I probably would have walked out with a smile on my face thinking, like, that's pretty good. But did you know it has, like, 4 sequels?
Yes, I've heard
Isn't
that.
that weird? I just think that's odd. I kind of wish, like, the whole film, the scene where Dennis Quaid meets him and they have that fight scene, is the best scene in the film. And it's in the middle. And it's like, save this for the end or something. Because, guys, you really, you kind of blew your money too early there. Because I kind of felt like there was some great scenes. Especially when he does that scene where he tries to eat him and he just kind of,
Yeah.
and then he goes like, and then it's like turns to night and he's still in there. That's hysterical, okay?
Right.
That is funny as heck. And I was going like, wow, I'm into this film. And then unfortunately the rest of the film is just like, well, I guess we gotta do whatever the hell this is. So yeah.
Well, I guess whether we count them as fantasy or not, there were several Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies in the 90s.
Yeah. All right. I'm thinking Hook would probably fall in this category. It definitely has the portal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Hook?
Yes.
Okay. Personally, I loved The Hook when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched it again, and I still kind of like it. If you look at the set of it, it looks super low budget, which is real strange because it's like, this is a Spielberg movie, right?
Right.
Like, but I don't know if that's part of the purposeful charm of it. Like the fact that I could tell this was done on a soundstage because the boat never even leaves its dock. So I'm going like, yeah, that would probably triple the budget if you did that, but isn't the whole point of a Peter Pan movie to kind of do that? But just because it didn't do it, didn't kill it for me.
Yeah.
And the film is more of a character study rather than an actual fantasy film, but it uses the fantasy elements very well.
Mm-hmm.
And taking the Legend of Peter Pan, which I didn't really know that much of at the time. I never saw the original Disney version, and now the Peter Pan story has been done like several times after this. And I personally think this is the best version, really. I kind of like this, I kind of like this idea of this film, and I thought Dustin Hoffman did just a stellar job as the character.
Yeah.
And even though I don't really like Robin Williams, I kind of like Robin Williams in this. So I hope that's not. I know that a lot of people didn't like Robin Williams after a while because I think his shtick got old. Okay, it did. So, but this was before like his shtick got old.
Right.
Okay. Okay, we really into that? Is that really all we have is Hook?
The Mummy.
Okay, fine, that's 1999. I'll give you that. I suppose you could call it a fantasy. I tend to think of these movies as sort of adventure.
I mean, yeah, it is an adventure movie.
Because we didn't discuss any of the Indiana Jones films.
That's true.
So I guess you could call those fantasy, but at the same time, I always consider those adventure films. And adventure films are great because they're adventure. They're all story, they're all plot, all characters. You usually don't look for anything deeper in them.
Very true.
But But The Mummy I've watched time and time again, and I don't even care if some of the special effects don't hold up on it. The fact is, it was ambitious what they were trying to make this zombie-like horror come alive that you could literally see through. I mean, that's something else. So, and Brandon Fraser is just hysterical in that. So, what can you say? But and most of the action scenes are very over the top that work really well. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of movie where you need over-the-top action scenes.
Oh, yeah. And over-the-top characters. And the death of Benny, I think, is oddly enough, one of the darkest movie endings I think I've ever seen in anything. But you're not really cheering for him to die by that point. It's kind of interesting. Benny's a character that you kind of don't root for, and then at the time where it's like, he's going to die here, isn't it? It's like, yep. And it's like, ugh.
Oh, ooh.
Bye, Benny. I think that's all that he said. So, wow, we really just cut into that. Oh, shucks, it's like 6:47. We gotta cut this show off here. Man, okay, well, maybe sometime we can meet together and talk about fantasy TV shows, but we can't think of any. But we couldn't think of any fantasy movies from the 90s either.
And here we are.
I know. And we already discussed Lord of the Rings, and that's pretty much it. Everything else after that was just derivative Lord of the Rings. So just take that as you will. It's derivative.